Japan, the land of the rising sun, and CART is here ready to race. Greg Moore, who won the season opener at Homestead, is looking to continue his tradition of winning. 4 of his 5 victories have come on ovals. Can Michael Andretti renew his winning tradition? Motegi bit the American in '98. Michael ran out of fuel while leading the race. Adrian Fernandez crashed at Miami, but as Japan's defending champion, he's hoping for a repeat performance on the Motegi Oval. CART's bad boy, Paul Tracy, is back, off suspension, and now has something to prove. Will the Japanese sun shine favorably on one of these heroes, or will it cast its rays toward a new tradition? ESPN Speed World presents round 2 of the CART FedEx Championship Series from the Twin Ring Motegi in Japan. Today, the coverage is of the Firestone Firehawk 500K, 312 miles. The action heated up in Motegi on Thursday during the practice session when Juan Montoya made contact with Michael Andretti in the first turn, sending both drivers into the wall. Both came away from the crash okay, but then tempers flared between the two. Montoya was fined $5,000 and put on probation when CART officials determined he took an unjustifiable risk. Carl Haas went to express his displeasure with Montoya when Chip Ganassi stepped in between the two to calm tempers. But Haas took exception and slapped Ganassi with his trademark cigar. Then, our Gary Gerald caught up with both Andretti and Montoya.
Do you feel like everything is okay now between you and Michael after your conversation?
Yeah, it's perfect. I don't think why we cannot race side by side each other.
He apologized, and we go on. He just has to learn he can't use his race car as a weapon out there, and that's what he did. Well, in the aftermath of the incident involving Andretti and Montoya, both men were relegated to their backup cars for qualifying yesterday, and the advantage was clearly Andretti's. He starts 5th. Montoya will start 15th. Andretti still not 100% physically with a sore neck and sore mid-back. And on the qualifying run yesterday for Montoya, there was further drama. On the second qualifying lap coming out of turn 4, he drifted high out of the groove, slapped the right rear against the concrete, damaging the suspension, but he made the save and drove the car safely back into the pits. Meanwhile, up here at the head of the grid, big story involving Gilles de Ferran. Remember the season opener at Miami when he had the huge qualifying crash on Saturday, then started the race 25th and ended up in 6th position? Well, today, for the first time in his career, on an oval, he starts from the pole. Next in line, Mauricio Guzman, then Max Pappas, then Adrian Fernandez, who won here a year ago, and amazingly, only 0.02 of a second separates that group. We've got the ingredients for a tremendous race right from the drop of the green.
All right, here's the starting grid with Gilles de Ferran on the pole. His 6th career pole, first since Detroit in '97. Mauricio Guzman alongside. His first front row start since Fontana '97. Max Pappas with the best starting position of his career inside row 2, and Adrian Fernandez, last year's winner, on the outside. In row 3, Michael Andretti and Greg Moore, the winner of the opening round at Homestead. In row 4, Christian Fittipaldi and Brian Herta. In row number 5, P.J. Jones and Paul Tracy back after a 1-race suspension. In row 6, Dario Franchitti and Jimmy Vasser. In row 7, Patrick Carpentier and Robbie Gordon. In row number 8, Juan Montoya in his backup car after that crash, and Mark Blundell. Row 9, Tony Kanaan and Helio Castroneves. In row 10, Alex Barron and Scott Pruitt. The 11th row, Richie Hearn and Tarso Marquez substituting for Al Unser Jr. In row 12, Cristiano D'Amata and Shigeaki Hattori making his first start in a champ car. And the 13th row, Luis Garcia Jr. and Michel Jourdain Jr. Now on the backstretch, rolling very quickly with de Ferran on the pole toward the green flag. Parker Johnstone, Jan Vikas with the coverage as well. Here they come off the corner. De Ferran loses it coming off the corner. Now it's cold there. He gets it corrected without any problem at all and rolls forward, but of course the race does not start. And Parker, that was something we were concerned with.
Well, it has been, Paul. It's been very cold at Motegi all week. Temperatures in the 40s to low 50s. The wind's been blowing, and what we saw there was exactly the problem of not being able to get the tire temperatures up quick enough. Gilles got on the power hard, spun the car, but a great piece of driving there. Even though he lost it, he was able to swing the car back around, do a reverse 180, get it back in gear, and take off. His problem, Paul, is did he flat spot those tires?
And I would say, Parker, that he did not, because you saw so much smoke, and it wasn't from brakes. I think he just stood on the throttle thinking that he could spin a 360, as he did. Wasn't collected by anyone. And you know what? This now helps everyone. Everyone was concerned it would take 2, 3, 4 laps to warm up the tires. Now they'll get a chance as they regroup.
You did see the emergency equipment roll, so it'll also take a little while they cycle that back in. There's DeFerrin totally sideways in front of the field.
Came off at turn 4, Paul, stood on the power, lit up that 900 horsepower Honda engine. Great bit of driving, though. As he comes off the corner, you can see it there. He's hard on the throttle. And as Jan said, he's standing on it right here to try to keep the car off the wall. 180 in, 180 around, and off he goes. Downshifts, great bit of driving.
It was an awesome bit of driving, remember, to save it. But obviously he needs to really concentrate, because it would have been an even better piece of driving if he hadn't lost it in the first place.
Gary Gerald, what are they going to do about the restart?
Paul, we are told that he will be able to get back to his original starting position since it was not an official start to the race. The clocks, of course, are running, but we are told DeFerrin will be able to realign side by side. He'll go back to the inside front row position.
All right, so the field will go back in formation as they qualified, but the laps from the time just after they pass the line at the spin will count. Of course, that's a fuel consideration.
When you also talk about great driving, we have to talk about all those people who were able to not panic, not do anything crazy when they saw all the smoke, because their view was blinded behind DeFerrin. And so kudos to everyone, because, you know, if your pole guy spins, you can wipe out the whole field.
And you've got to remember, there are guys that are 4, 5, 6 rows back who are standing on the throttle, anticipating the front row getting away, and they were able, as Jan said, to get it back under control. They went 3, 4 abreast all the way through the field. That was top-level professionalism.
And Mauricio Guzman, you saw him as the spin occurred, went high and got by cleanly. And had that continued as a race, he would have had a jump on the rest of the field. Now it's all a blank page. We start it over. Whoa. Little too close to the wall for my comfort.
Right up on the rev limiter as he came back around to keep it off the wall, spun it back around, and now they're lined back up looking for another chance to take the green flag.
They're going to take one more lap before they give them the green flag. Michael Andretti's view.
Now, see, this is what I'm talking about, is his view is totally obscured, and he doesn't do anything crazy. And, you know, it really helped that Gilles DeFerrin did just hammer the throttle, so he didn't just stop in front of everyone else.
Yeah, most of the inside rows were smoked up pretty badly. He finally got it around, got it under control, and now, hopefully at the end of this lap, we will take a look at the green flag and get this race underway. 3 laps under yellow. Already counted into the total distance of the race, 201 laps.
This morning in the warm-up, Gilles DeFerrin had an electrical problem with his car. He had to go to the backup car, but the Derek Walker Racing Crew feels that they have that problem solved. Also, Paul Tracy, starting back in 10th place, had an oil pressure problem. Team Green had to change engines, but they've got him back in the primary car and back up to speed.
Go. Look at them as they come 4 wide down to the first corner. DeFerrin leads Guzman onto the backstretch. Those two have separated. Everyone else battles it out. Track is so wide and so smooth, the drivers say they can put the car just about anywhere. First racing lap complete, the end of lap number 5.
Wow, look at Robbie Gordon going around the outside of Max Pappas. Robbie Gordon always gets on fire at the beginning of the race. He goes to the high side. Man, he is on a charge.
Robbie Gordon started in 14th place, and that was an amazing bit of driving. We saw Robbie doing it at Homestead, but now, as they come across the line, Robbie will be back up into 4th place. He's passed 10 cars in the opening stages of this race.
Robbie Gordon in the middle there. Pappas just behind him. Gordon always a factor.
And what do you think Max Pappas was thinking there? Of course, he drove with Toyota power last year. He switched to Ford. He got blown off on the outside by Robbie Gordon with that Toyota power plant.
Robbie's been quick the entire weekend in all the practice sessions. And on the opening lap going through turns 1 and 2, we can see that Max had a big wiggle. You got to remember, there's a lot of turbulence. We have cold tires. Maybe Max is being a little conservative. He's dropped back just a little bit. But Robbie Gordon on the high side, starting on that outside row, has taken great advantage of the conditions to really make a big charge up through the field. 10 positions in just a couple laps.
Trackside, Gary Gerald.
Paul, a huge break for Robbie Gordon as well as Gilles de Ferran on the start. Gordon was the last one to get his engine fired. A battery had died. They replaced it, and even though he was tagging at the very back of the pack, they gave him his position. And then, of course, we had that aborted start, so Gordon got a huge break as well. Earlier this week in practice, I said, why is your Toyota so much faster than the others? He didn't say a word. He grinned, and he pointed to his right foot.
Got a glimpse there of Jimmy Vasser working on Mark Blundell. Battle for 10th place. Back at the front. De Ferran still leads it. Gugelmin half a second back. Followed by Fernandez, Gordon, and Andretti. That's the top 5.
I would have to say that Gilles de Ferran has got to be feeling so much better right now, thinking that he possibly had thrown his race away on the opening lap of the race. And now it appears as though he's settled in, and his pulse rate certainly would be much, much lower.
Castro Neves started 18th, now is 9th. So both Robbie Gordon and Castro Neves on the move through the field.
And there's an answer to one of our questions. You saw Michael Andretti shift. That was an upshift on the approach to turn number 1. And if you watch, he'll probably downshift here with his right hand on the approach to turn number 3. It's the slowest corner on the track.
That's right. Turns 1 and 2, the drivers can drive just about flat out.
Carpentier comes into the pits. They go for fuel first. They always do that. But no indication as to why he may have stopped early. So a surprise, Carpentier hits the pits early on. Report from the pits is the engine is running rough.
Also heard a shift there for Gilles de Ferran. Most of the guys going through the gears at the moment.
So Gilles de Ferran jumps from the pole position into a spin. They restart the race, and he jumps to the lead ahead of Mauricio Gugelmin. We'll be back with more.
We asked professional race car driver Scott Pruitt to test our Firehawk SH30 high-performance tires with Unit T. Unit T, the ultimate tire technology we've spent years perfecting. In fact, when it comes to designing performance tires for wet cornering, we've been around the block. The Firestone Firehawk SH30 with Unit T. Get a grip on wet cornering.
I'm Steve Kirby. These are my mountains. I test emissions for Ford Motor Company. We're up here in the Rockies testing Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury sport utility vehicles. We're really concerned about the environment. Every SUV we sell this year is going to be low emissions. These vehicles average 35% less smog-forming emissions than the government requires. 35%. That's really amazing. The government doesn't make us do this. We're doing this for my mountains. Better ideas driven by you.
They're some of our favorite people, the millions of AutoZone customers who change their own oil. They're the kind of folks who believe that taking care of their car and saving money go hand in hand. And while we admire their willingness to tackle a dirty job, most of all, we thank them for bringing their used oil back to us. After all, used motor oil should be recycled, and that's one job we simply can't do alone.
Cup was supposed to be here 3 days ago. You hear that? That's 20,000 screaming people that are going to tear me apart. They tear! Thank you very much. Thank you. Goodbye. 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 Stanley Cup! Stanley Cup!
Got an important package? Next time, send it FedEx and be absolutely sure.
ESPN's coverage of the Firestone Firehawk 500K is brought to you by FedEx, proud sponsors of the 1999 FedEx Championship Series, and by the more than 2,500 AutoZone stores across America. AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. Only one change while we were away. Castro Neves was able to move around Christian Fittipaldi and into 8th place. Still waiting word on what may be wrong with Carpentier. We're watching Adrian Fernandez. He runs 3rd. Remember, he's the defending champion here and had a good run going at the opener at Homestead until he had problems with an engine. It let the oil go. The oil let the tires slip, and he went into the wall.
Remember, Paul, he ran the 98 Renard at Homestead. They've switched from the Swift chassis. We understand that Patrick Racing will be back with the Swift at our next race at Long Beach. But that car was damaged, as you said. So now they've got a 97 tub with 98 side pods and wings on it, but 99 suspension parts. The team affectionately calls it Frankenstein. Adrian was the fastest in all the practice sessions up until qualifying, but now we see Adrian running very strong in 3rd place. He wants to come back and win this race again.
Oh, and Patrick Carpentier out of the race. Gary Gerald?
We're with Patrick as he's walked away from the car. Fuel pickup problem, is that what we're hearing, Patrick?
I don't know, something was totally wrong in the car, and then I think we had the electrical fire in the car, the ground somewhere, and the car just stopped. It's too bad, eh?
You've had a great weekend thus far. I know it's got to be a huge disappointment. You felt like the car was good, that you could have a shot at winning?
Yeah, I think we had a shot because the car was excellent in the long run, like at Homestead, you know, and this year we want to be in a championship, and it seems like we have this cloud of bad luck over us that needs to go away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Past couple of laps, Adrian Fernandez, running in 3rd, has been running about a mile an hour faster, up at 2:11.1 as compared with 2:10s, low 2:10s for both DeFerrin and Gugelmin. So he's now closing. You can see the battle at the front is tightening up.
And Parker was talking about the fact that that's a 97 chassis that Adrian Fernandez is using, and there has been quite a bit of talk that CART is considering a chassis freeze. It's something that I know the owners are talking about, which would mean that they could use a chassis for 2 or 3 years. Well, Adrian Fernandez is a great example of the fact it would not slow them down at all, because he's had one of the fastest cars with a 2-year-old chassis.
And if they would institute such a freeze, that kind of helps the research and development. The cars become more even over time.
And of course, the reason they would do it, it saves them a ton of money if they don't have to buy 2, 3, 4, 5 cars at the beginning of each season.
And you can imagine the owners spent over $450,000 for a new chassis this year, and here's Adrian Fernandez, very quick, running 3rd, currently in a 97, 98, 99 conglomeration.
So Fernandez runs in 3rd place. DeFerrin leads it. Gugelmin is 2nd. We'll give you the rundown through the rest of the field. 24 laps complete, 177 to go. On a cool day, there is some threat of rain at the Twin Ring Motegi. At a boarded start, when DeFerrin lost it, I think got everybody's attention, as did the crash on the first lap at Homestead. And the first couple of laps that they ran into the green, they really tiptoed. Now they are all beginning to move the markers up on speed. 211.3, 387 last time around for DeFerrin. We continue to watch this 3rd place position, Adrian Fernandez.
When you mentioned about the start, Paul, I still cannot get over the fact that he pulled that off, that he saved it, he didn't flat spot his tires, and now he's leading comfortably, and no one else hit him. To me, it's just incredible that they got away with one there, and it's just a testament to everyone. And Robbie Gordon, of course, nothing scares Robbie. He goes high and he passes everybody, and he's been able to hang on to that. Look, he picked up everything in the first couple of laps.
Oh, and Gugelmin grabs the lead away from DeFerrin. Gugelmin goes to the lead. And once he's past him, look at him pull.
Paul, we've done enough laps at this point where the cars may have started with a fairly good balance, but now the cars will start to show their true character as they start to burn fuel, start to have some tire wear. They're just about halfway past on their fuel runs. The cars are getting a little lighter now, and if the cars are going neutral to loose, we'll see people starting to move up through the field quickly that maybe were a little bit conservative in the opening stages of this race.
And I would not be surprised if Gilles DeFerrin lost the lead because of traffic. We saw in the back there that other cars were working through traffic, and he may have just caught a car at the wrong time.
Well, Shegi Hattori was actually being overhauled by the leaders at the time. and he may very well have been a factor in it. Coverage provided here by NTV Japan. As we look back toward third place, Adrian Fernandez. They're second and third. Robbie Gordon closing in.
This is a very unusual oval. We could hear when we were on board with Gilles de Ferran, his downshift going into turn 3, and as he comes down the front straightaway, they'll go up into top gear. They're going just over 223 miles an hour as they enter turn number 3.
The Dan Gurney car, Alex Barron in the pits. Good to see Castrol back on the side of the car.
The air jacks are not working, so they've had to go to the manual rear and front jacking approach. So not what you want for a quick pit stop. Of course, what they have is they have a compressed air line that the vent man puts on a fitting on the top of the car. When you put the vent hose in, you put compressed air, and it takes 4 jacks and raises the car. They didn't work.
So Mauricio Guzman out in front by a full second and a half now. Gary Gerald.
Situation for Alex Barron. Apparently the right front tire was flat. That necessitated the early stop, Paul.
Mauricio Guzman leads, followed by de Ferran, Fernandez, Gordon, and Andretti. With Patrick Carpentier out early, that's going to be a devastating blow to his championship hopes.
Get digital at The Wiz, where all the latest technology and all the digital brands you want most are right here, right now. Hear the power of Dolby Digital Sound. You won't believe your digital ears. Discover the world of digital video. You won't believe your digital eyes. More digital madness than you can ever imagine every day of the year. The digital craze goes on. So get digital. The world certainly is at The Wiz, your ticket to entertainment.
Meet Steve-O and Bob. They're the only 2 punks living in Salt Lake City.
What the hell are you? We're from England. That's why we seem so weird to you, man.
With only one way to escape. Critics say it's John Hughes meets Sid and Nancy. Truly original, fresh and hip, and in your face.
I am the future of this great nation.
Matthew Lillard, Michael Gorgon, Salt Lake City Punk.
I didn't sell out, son. I bought in.
Rated R. Starts Friday.
Tonight on ESPN, Baseball Tonight, followed by Sunday Night Baseball as the Angels battle the Rangers. On ESPN2, RPM Tonight, and National Hockey Night. And on ESPN Classic, College Football Classics, Florida State, and Sunday Drives featuring the 82 U.S. Open. Do you have all the ESPN networks? Countdown to the NHL playoffs. Tonight at 8, Coyotes, Mighty Ducks on ESPN2. Tomorrow at 10:30, Oilers, Sharks on ESPN2. And Tuesday at 7:30, Sabres, Flyers on ESPN.
They had a corner kick and we cleared it. I just broke for the goal. Nothing but green in front of me. Felt really good. I'm Dante Washington. Have you seen me?
See him Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2.
The Kart FedEx Championship Series, the Firestone Firehawk 500K from Twin Ring Motegi in Japan. While you were away, Robbie Gordon roared past Gilles de Ferran and moved into third place. Then Michael Andretti got past de Ferran as well. De Ferran now moving from the pole to first place back into fifth. One has to wonder whether or not that spin early on may have affected the tires. Gary Gerald?
Well, we're told that the car has gone very loose for Gilles de Ferran. He's radioed repeatedly, bring me in, bring me in. He wants to get in for an early pit stop to change the handling characteristics. He's been shuffled back a couple of more positions, even as we speak.
Oh, you expect de Ferran in any time now, as a matter of fact. They're laid out for him. There he is.
You'll see him come around to the front of the car, Paul, and take some wing out of the front of this car. There they are on the adjustments, trying to take some aerodynamic downforce out of the front of the car. When you hear a driver pleading to come in, that's probably one of the most frightening moments you can have, because you have to stay out there and try to get into your fuel window as best as you can. but DeFerrin doesn't want to risk putting that car into the fence.
And lap number 39, I would think, is not as long as you'd want to go to be in the proper sequence. He could be in trouble if you don't have yellow, if he only wants to make 2 more stops.
That's right, Jan, and I think what we saw is he finally said enough pleading, and he just came in.
Go to Gary Gerald.
For Gil DeFerrin, on that pit stop, Paul, we're told they changed the tire stagger, and also you probably saw it made the adjustment on the front wing. 2 big changes for DeFerrin.
Well, and probably really just the change of tires alone is going to make a world of difference. Mauricio Gugelmin now running laps at 214, while Fernandez right behind him just turned the last lap at 2:15.3. Traffic, of course, is part of that, but they're definitely up in the ante.
And part of the reason is, as Parker said earlier, they're burning fuel off, and when the car is lighter, it goes faster. But because it's a cool day, it takes a real long time to get those tire temperatures up to where you want them.
41 laps complete. The first estimate was that they would stop at about the 46th lap, but remember the first 5 were run under yellow, so they should be able to extend out beyond that.
As we watch Mauricio Gugelmin, this is the only oval where they're not allowed to test. And what makes it very interesting is that this oval is different in that 1 and 2 are flat out. They go through the corner about 190, 200 miles an hour. Then they have to downshift. As we watch Castro Neves downshifting, trying to go around the high side now of Greg Moore. They're pulling speeds going to that corner of about 223. They pick up a draft. In this case with Castro Neves, they upshift going down into this corner. Turn number 1 flat out.
Boy, keep an eye on this white and dark blue Hogan car. Number 9. Helio Castro Neves, because he's been carving his way forward. Remember, he did the same thing at Homestead. He is now 5th, and he's beginning to beat up on the back end of Greg Moore, the Homestead winner.
This is a Lola chassis, Paul. They had problems finding the balance during the course of the weekend, but he was very pleased after the morning warm-up, said that the car was perfect, and we can see him just going through traffic as though he was in a different class of car. A very confident young man trying to restate what he showed so well at Homestead, that he deserves to be at the front.
Robbie Gordon has come into the pits out of the top 3, and we do expect that Gugelmin will be in shortly, and Castro Neves also is making that turn down onto the pit road, in or over on the backside. There's the leader, Gugelmin. We expect him in shortly. Fernandez, if he doesn't follow him in, will assume the lead, and the exact position of this first stop, I think, is going to be critical to the whole game at the end of the race.
We understand that the engines are getting tremendous fuel mileage at Twin Ring Motegi. They want to try to extend that window as long as possible in order to make this a 2-stop race, Paul.
Well, the only caution came at the start, ran for the first 5 laps. They've been clean and green since then.
And you notice many of the pit crews now wearing helmets. They think that it will obviously protect the mechanics in the case of a car getting away from somebody.
So Mauricio Gugelmin, the second leader of the day, comes into the pits. Gary Gerald is waiting.
We expect no changes, Paul. Crew members waving him down. A lot of activity, a flurry here on pit road. We expect that this will be a 3-stop race. Here's trouble. Sideways. Hit a couple of men. Everybody bounces up as he slid in on the concrete. They push the car back so that they can make the fueling. Every crew member continuing his duty. I don't think anybody was hurt, but that was an amazing close call just feet away from us. Gugelmin waiting and waiting. Problem at the right rear. They still haven't gotten the right rear on. A long, long stop. They changed from asphalt onto concrete, and somehow he just came in too hot. Now he's ready to move.
Long, long stop. Very costly for the leader, Mauricio Gugelmin.
And he will get a penalty because he did run over an air hose. So Mauricio Gugelmin will probably be back on pit road.
Michael Andretti stops. Fernandez has stayed out, so it's Fittipaldi.
As Gary said and corrected me, they're trying to go as long as possible to make this a 3-stop race. The problem with Mauricio's stop there, as Gary said, if you don't get heat into the brakes going down the back straightaway and drag your left foot on the brake pedal, it's very easy to come in too hot, not have enough brake temperature, and lock it up as you transition off the asphalt onto the concrete.
Fernandez comes in for his stop now as the leader of the race. This is on lap 50. Gary?
Watching Adrian Fernandez snap the visor back down. Everything appears to be routine. Now the fueling hoses are disconnected, and with a cloud of burnt rubber, he's out of here.
All of these stops occurring under the green. Cristiano D'Amata is trying to explain to Cal Wells what may have happened. Wells, one of the owners on the team, Artiero Wells.
It's been a difficult weekend for the Toyota-powered car of Cristiano D'Amata after doing so well back in Homestead, but Robbie Gordon's carrying the flag, running so strongly, but now back in 13th place for Toyota in its home race.
So with 51 laps complete, Scott Pruitt assumes the lead. Fernandez was able to come out in second place. We'll be back.
Today's technologically advanced cars brake better than ever before. But it's up to your tires to translate these advances into stopping power on the road. The Firestone FT70C uses Unity technology to help your car stop when the rain starts. So if you're not driving on FT70C tires with Unity, what's stopping you? The Firestone FT70C with Unity Ultimate Tire Technology, built to stop in the wet.
I'm Steve Kirby. These are my mountains. I test emissions for Ford Motor Company. We're up here in the Rockies testing Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury sport utility vehicles. We're really concerned about the environment. Every SUV we sell this year is going to be low emissions. These vehicles average 35% less smog-forming emissions than the government requires. 35%. That's really amazing. The government doesn't make us do this. We're doing this for my mountains. Better ideas driven by you.
In racing, the engine is everything.
What? It's the driver.
A driver will never see a finish line without a great engine.
The greatest engine will never see a victory lap without a great driver.
At least they agree on Haviland Formula 3 motor oil, the same oil you can buy right off the shelf.
The engine's the first thing over the finish line.
Not in Indy cars.
Twin turbo to pin you to the seat. All-wheel drive to shred asphalt. Multi-link suspension to humiliate hairpins. And a trailer hitch to tow home trophies. Need for speed, high stakes. Lose the race, lose your car, call a cab.
Now our Toyota Spotlight. One driver not in the starting field today is Allenser Jr., who broke his right ankle in this crash on the first lap at Homestead. Unser broke the same ankle in 1985, but this recovery will be more lengthy.
I called Dr. Tremont and I said, this is looking just like 85, you know. I was in the car 10 days later. And so, you know, Japan may not be out of the question. And he goes, Al, no way. He said, first off, in 85, I only broke one side of my ankle. Now I've got both sides broken, and so it's a worse break. And so he said, just coming off of the air jacks during the race could snap things apart.
Tarso Marquez has taken over the car for at least this race and probably Long Beach. He currently runs 22nd. Also, Naoki Hattori, who was involved in that crash, will miss up to 6 months with a double compound fracture of the left leg. Of course, we wish both Naoki and Al a speedy recovery. Now, while we were away, Scott Pruitt went into the pits. That gave the lead back over to Adrian Fernandez. He is being pursued by Michael Andretti. And Juan Montoya now sits in third place in his second oval race.
And that's a bit of that Ganassi pit magic. Obviously, they have done it in the past for Alex Zanardi and Jimmy Vasser. Montoya, a big beneficiary of a fast pit stop.
And as we watch, both Michael Andretti and Christian Fittipaldi also benefited from that last round of pit stops. They're running second and fourth. And Castro Neves has now moved up into sixth place. What a great run for this Hogan Racing team.
So the top of the order changes with 142 to go, 59 complete. The first stops coming from about the 45th lap through the 50th lap. Fernandez able to carry all the way to the 50th lap before he is able to stop. And then after the cycle goes through, he comes out as the leader.
Michael Andretti up into top gear there going into turn one. Listen, he's flat out through 1 and 2. Comes off the corner, now heading down for the fastest part of the circuit, just over 220 miles an hour here. Lightly touches the brakes, downshifts to third, starts to pick the throttle up as he comes off turn 4 and accelerates back down the pit straightaway, pulling about 4 Gs going through the corners, 4 times the force of gravity. Tremendous run for Michael, just like he had at Homestead. Michael, it's that signature line. He's down low on the entry of the corners, Paul. He runs much lower than anyone else. There's a big bump here into turn 3, but he's down below it. No problem for Michael Andretti. A great run.
Juan Montoya just turned a lap at 215.4. Fastest of the race. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Cristiano D'Amato, what put you out of the race?
Well, we had the gearbox problem. As in this track, we changed down to 5th gear, down turns 3 and 4. We started to get into neutral between 6th and 5th. Then suddenly started to get from 6th to 3rd, and just couldn't run because we had a couple of big overrevs on the engine and completely broke the gearbox. Big problem.
How tough was it getting temperature in the tires with the cold weather?
You know, the tires were actually getting temperature pretty good. That wasn't the biggest problem we're getting, and we just didn't have the balance as good as we were expecting, as we had Saturday, for example. Temperature wasn't a problem for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul?
So Adrian Fernandez still the leader of the run.
And Castro Neves has moved up into 4th position, Paul. This Lola Hogan Racing team is on the move. It shows that they've got the car balance exactly where they want it, because this track allows for a good car balance and a confident driver to make a lot of progress through the field down in that 3-4 section where they have to use the brakes and the car has to be very well balanced. A driver that's got everything under control down in that end of the course can really make some headway, and Helio Castroneves is doing exactly that.
View of the pole sitter, early leader, DeFerrin now running in 7th, back to the front of the field. With Fernandez, Michael Andretti 3 seconds back, Montoya 9 seconds back. There he is, and Castroneves in 4th place, only 15 seconds behind the leader.
It shows you how much confidence this young Colombian at 23 years of age has, Paul. Juan Montoya involved in 2 different incidents, one in the practice crash with Michael Andretti and then tagging the wall in his 2nd lap in qualifying. Doesn't seem to have phased him at all. He's back up to speed, 3rd place, running very, very strong. Only his 2nd oval race ever.
And if he continues to run fast and he does catch up to the next position, who does he catch up to? Michael Andretti.
It's amazing that Fernandez has clicked off 2:15s fairly regularly there as the speed of the race picks up. And remember, too, that those fast laps by both Fernandez and Montoya have been driven with a fairly full load of fuel on the race car.
Well, it's one thing to have the balance right at the beginning of the run, Paul, but as the car burns fuel, the back of the car starts to raise up. Means that the center of pressure of the aerodynamics moves forward. It makes the back of the car want to step out. Plus, you're trying to drive over 900 horsepower through those rear tires, so the cars naturally want to turn around on you. The team that guesses the best is the one that has the least amount of understeer all the way through the run, but doesn't scare the driver towards the end of the run. And we'll see these cars get faster and faster, but confidence is everything. I can tell you, Adrian Fernandez, Michael Andretti, and Juan Montoya have that confidence.
Castroneves carving away a bit from 4th place. He's taken a 2nd off the interval between his position and that of the leader, Adrian Fernandez.
The Stanley Cup was supposed to be here 3 days ago. You hear that? That's 20,000 screaming people that are going to tear me apart. They tear! Thank you very much. Goodbye. Stanley Cup! Stanley Cup!
Package? Next time, send it FedEx and be absolutely sure.
Sorry. Not my dog.
Hey, I found your dog. Is that my reward? Budweiser. Thanks, man.
People are selling tools today on the market that I don't even think they know where they're made, and they're not a quality tool. One thing about the Craftsman tool, it's made here, and you know the quality's good.
1,800 Craftsman hand tools made in America, guaranteed forever.
If something happens to it, you can take it back, and you know where to take it back because you know where it come from.
Craftsman makes anything possible.
He's got pride in his heart and dirt on his hands. There's one place to find a hard-working man. Ford Country, look at that truck. Ford Country, built Ford tough. Ford Country, when the work gets done. Ford Country, there it goes. When friends get together, the work's all done. There's one place to go when the weekend comes. Ford Country, the whole world's Ford Country. Every place is Ford Country. Drive on out to Ford Country. Yeah, Ford Country. Ford Country.
On board with Richie Hearn, he is 17th right now, a lap behind the lead. But we can ride with him a bit.
You can watch him shift. It's a sequential gearbox. He just pulls straight back, never lifts off the throttle. There's a sensor that determines when he's about to shift. They make the change just that quick. And when he downshifts, Paul, you'll see him move his hand forward. Never uses the clutch. Just breathes the throttle, left foot brakes, and sticks it down into 5th gear.
And if you're wondering why the top of the steering wheel is missing, that's so he can look through there and see the dash.
Helio Castroneves still with a great run in 4th place. He's carved another 3 seconds off of Adrian Fernandez's position in the lead, Gary Gerald.
Helio Castroneves has one downside right now, Paul. That's when he's on the backstretch going into turn 3. If he wants to shift down from 6th to 5th gear, he's having some difficulty. So right for the moment, he's having to stay in the 1 gear, but it doesn't look like it's bothering him. Also, just a quick update on Adrian Fernandez. Both he and his teammate P.J. Jones were able to negotiate their pit stops with no changes, and Helio Castroneves is flying. He's looking strong.
He's not the only one. Montoya has been carving away at the lead as well. Still sits in 3rd place, but 3.1 seconds back from the leader. Mauricio Guzman was given a black flag for a safety violation. So that penalty now called.
And we have exactly what we were talking about. Here's Michael Andretti, and followed by a hard-charging Juan Montoya. And we already know what happened here a couple days ago. And what will Michael do? Will he give him room?
Will this be Celebrity Deathmatch 2000 Part 2? We'll see, but Michael goes in early, and I think that's one of the reasons that they had a problem going down into turn 1 during that practice session. But Mikey full well knows who's behind him, as Juan knows who's in front of him. This could be very, very interesting.
Now, when they had their contact in practice, Montoya was trying to go to the inside. Mikey was up a little bit, gave him some room, but then they got in contact, and boy, that brought the tempers out for both Michael Andretti and Juan Montoya. Moves to the inside, Montoya. Andretti gives him plenty of room, and Montoya goes into 2nd.
Montoya's car is just so strong, Paul. There was no contest there. You could see him draft up behind him. He could run in the turbulence with no problem at all, and there was no question that he had that pass.
And I also think that Michael Andretti has learned that he maybe needed to give him a little more room, and he knows when he has a faster car. And Michael will be back there. He'll be able to adjust the car during pit stops, and maybe they can pick up some speed for Michael.
Michael now 2 seconds back from the leader, right behind Montoya. And Castroneves sits about 8 seconds back, so that interval begins to close even further.
You can see Montoya up ahead of Michael is now in traffic trying to find his way by. Michael used this to his advantage to try to make up some time back up on the back of Juan.
You got a glimpse of Mark Blundell slowing earlier. He's 22nd, 2 laps behind the race, and now climbs out of his car.
We could see part of Michael's problem when we were on board there, Paul, is that he has to lift off the throttle a lot going through turns 1 and 2. And if the car's working well, that corner should be done flat. So I think that's part of the problem, is Michael might have a lot of chassis problems right now with his car. As Jan said, hopefully he'll be able to address those issues during the next pit stop.
Lundell, the Englishman, just celebrated a birthday. I think he was hoping for a better present than this. Fernandez, the leader. Montoya, 2.6 seconds back in second. Then Michael Andretti, Castroneves has carved another full second. So now 83 laps are complete in the Firestone Firehawk 500K from Motegi, Japan.
Meet Steve-O and Bob. They're the only two punks living in Salt Lake City.
What the hell are you? We're from England. That's why we seem so weird to you, man.
With only one way to escape. Critics say it's John Hughes meets Sid and Nancy. Truly original, fresh and hip, and in your face.
I am the future of this great nation.
Matthew Lillard, Michael Gorgon, Salt Lake City Punk.
I didn't sell out, son. I bought in.
Rated R. Starts Friday.
What if your car slips off the road in Slippery Rock? Or you need the name of a mechanic in Mechanicsville? Well, if your car is insured by State Farm, then all you have to do is call a local State Farm agent wherever you happen to be, whether it's a big metropolis or just a little one. A good neighbor is nearby to help. So if your car gets stolen in Thief River Falls, or you have some trouble in paradise, there's a State Farm agent there to help you, just like at home.
7. The 1999 NFL Draft live on ESPN and ESPN2. Join Chris Berman, Mel Kiper, Joe Theismann, Boomer Esiason, Chris Mortensen, Mike Tirico, Jim Kelly, plus the rest of the NFL Draft team. From the first pick to the last pick, our team breaks it all down. Also live reports from inside the war rooms. The 1999 NFL Draft, the players, the teams, the future. Saturday, April 17th at noon on ESPN with updates on ESPN.com.
Report from the observers is that Franchitti brushed the wall and apparently continued on, but that brought out the yellow flag. The field slows behind Adrian Fernandez, and that will close up that battle at the front, and this may be a real advantage as a safety crew looking to see what parts may have been left there. This may give a great advantage to Castroneves and Robbie Gordon, both of whom have had great runs, and it'll close the front of that field up. So Fernandez is the leader. A great run by Montoya. Michael Andretti is still in the fight. We've got 89 laps complete and a great race. Everybody signing a giant card for Billy Camphausen, a card official who suffered a heart attack and is in the hospital. Everybody at CART wishes that he gets well soon and gets back.
In the soul of every Bridgestone Potenza lies the twists and turns of the legendary Formula One Grand Prix courses of the world, the ultimate proving grounds of tyre technology. Using a tapered tread element derived from the Potenza Racing Rain tyre, the Potenza RE910 Street tyre handles the road wet or dry. Made with Unity, Bridgestone's ultimate tyre technology. Bridgestone Potenza, technology-driven performance used on every Grand Prix course of Formula One.
I'm Steve Kirby. These are my mountains. I test emissions for Ford Motor Company. We're up here in the Rockies testing Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury sport utility vehicles. We're really concerned about the environment. Every SUV we sell this year is going to be low emissions. These vehicles average 35% less smog-forming emissions than the government requires. 35%. That's really amazing. The government doesn't make us do this. We're doing this for my mountains. Better ideas driven by you.
There's a man who lives across the alley. I watch him from my window. I fear his knowledge is bigger than mine. I must watch more RPM tonight. I must watch more RPM tonight.
Back at the Firestone Firehawk 500 under the caution, but while we were away, everyone decided this was a very good time for them to take a look at the pits. And so with Adrian Fernandez as the leader, everybody on the leader lap, it seems, decided to come into the pits. In fact, we'll back check and see who in fact did. But this was the scene as Fernandez brought the field in. And of course, the second track there is Juan Montoya, who was running in second at the time.
This is when we see if Adrian's really happy with his car, Paul. You notice no changes to the front wings. I think Adrian's very happy with the balance of his car.
Michael Andretti, as you can see, stopped as well. They came out in the same order they went in. Gary Gerald?
Well, Paul Parker is absolutely right. Adrian Fernandez delighted. There were no changes. And what they're hoping to be able to do, even though we have roughly, 109 laps to go, is to try to conserve fuel during this next run and hopefully make just one more stop before the race is complete. They're going to have to get some great fuel mileage to do it, but he also got great service in the pits. 9.7 seconds was all it took to get refueled, retired, and back underway.
That's a great stop. We saw during Michael Andretti's stop, they made an adjustment to the front wings. Now, what we can't tell, Paul, is if they make a stagger change or a tire pressure change. We have no idea if they've done that, but usually the front wings is the first indication that they're trying to do something. And we see Dario Franchitti out of the car, Paul.
So now, under the caution, Fernandez maintains the lead. Don't forget, we'll be having coverage of the Busch Brand National Morris Next 250, 1 o'clock on Saturday, and then the Truck Series, the Craftsman Truck Series, the Dodge California Truck Stop 300. For more information, don't forget to head to ESPN.com, part of the Go Network, go.com.
There are some winners and losers in that last round of pit stops. Fernandez, Montoya, and Andretti all came out status quo, first, second, and third, but Greg Moore came up to fourth. Tracy, great stop by Team Green. Up into fifth place, Pappas in sixth. Castroneves was the big loser. He went from running so strong up in the top four, now he's back to seventh place. But as we saw before that round of pit stops, by far, Castroneves, the quickest car on the racetrack, running 5, 6, 7, even 8 miles an hour faster than anyone else. If he's got a good set of tires underneath him, because these tires do change from set to set, he should be moving right back to the front again.
Taking a look through our onboard cameras, Jimmy Vasser, protected by that yellow, was about to go a lap down to the leader, but now sits in 10th place just ahead of Robbie Gordon.
This is the shot from the right side of Gilles de Ferran's car. Gilles de Ferran, one of only a few cars on Goodyear tires. It was a very interesting story, Paul, after Newman Haas Racing switched to Firestones just before Homestead. Here is Gilles de Ferran on Goodyear's, back on the pole for his first oval pole ever. Fantastic
story. Camera reports on Jimmy Vasser. Here is Richie Herm. Vasser is in 10th. Hearn runs in 14th, but he's a lap behind the race. Tell you what, you come to a race, you got to take a look at the nose of that car and see Louis trying to hang on to his car number. It's great. You have to see it. I really shouldn't have told you about it. Go look at it.
Now, of course, the cars themselves are very warm, but they've put cold tires on these cars. So when we went on board and you see them weaving back and forth, what they're trying to do is, number one, keep the tires clean, but they're also trying to build some heat because they don't want to repeat what you had on the opening lap.
What they'll do with 1 lap to go, Jan, is that they'll go down into first and second gear on the straightaways and do a couple of burnouts to try to get some heat into those rear tires so they don't have a duplication of what happened to Gilles de Ferran on that first lap. They'll try to do some burnouts to ensure the back of the car stays right behind them when they get back on the power coming out of turn number 4.
Rookie Montoya has buttoned himself right to the back of veteran race leader and defending champion at Motegi, Adrian Fernandez, as they should be ready to go green. And of course, going back to the green, that's all a matter of momentum and the way you surge to the start. But look at Montoya. I think he's got this thing figured out.
I tell you, he shows a lot of experience for a rookie, but Adrian Fernandez manages to drop him. And look at Michael Andretti all the way on the back of Montoya. Now, he can't pass until the green comes out, but as soon as they got that green, he's going to try to slingshot Montoya going down into turn 1.
Montoya didn't anticipate the start as well as he could, and Michael Andretti got held up behind him. Pappas, he tries down on the inside. That's Tracy, the green car he battles with. Tracy back after his 1 race suspension at Homestead.
And remember that Max Pappas was a little conservative at the start of the race because the car looked loose. Now he's obviously comfortable with that car.
What we saw there, Paul Tracy was running the high line, leaving Max some air down low, and Max is going to try to use that to his advantage. But now Michael Andretti, with that last round of pit stops, I'm sure this car has improved from the last time he was out. You could hear he was easily flat through 1 and 2. He couldn't do that at the end of the last run.
Ride with Michael Andretti. Dario Franchitti out of the race. Gary Gerald.
We stand with him on the wall as the field flashes out of turn 4. Dario, what happened in that incident that got you up against the concrete?
There was some traffic ahead, and I wanted to get out of the turbulence because the car was pretty oversteering turbulence. I wanted to get a little bit higher, try and get a run out of the corner and get past some guys. But as I got into the corner, I was a little bit too high and just understeered up into the wall.
Got to be a big disappointment after that great start at Miami a couple of weeks ago. Sorry you're out, man.
Here's another massive disappointment as we watch Michael Andretti. Elio Castroneves has fallen down through the field all the way to 10th. He's slowing, and there is some sort of problem. There he is. Looks like he's still trying to stay at speed at least.
Looks like he's up to speed to me, Paul.
Suddenly fell down through the order. Pappas, Tracy, Fittipaldi, Kanaan, Vassar all got past him. That's Vassar just ahead of him.
We don't know if he got caught up in traffic, missed a gear, got a little high out of the groove. We just heard Dario Franchitti say that if you get high, it's easy for these cars to wash out. We saw last year Alessandro Zanardi hit the wall under similar circumstances.
Don't forget, Gary told us he couldn't downshift. So if he got stuck in traffic, you could easily lose all those spots if you can't downshift effectively.
So if that was the problem, he should theoretically be able to make the same move through the field that he did. He's only 5.2 seconds behind Adrian Fernandez, the leader of the race. And Fernandez, I'll tell you, is looking like he may be able to notch another win here at Motegi onto his record, but he's being chased by a very determined rookie, Juan Montoya.
Remember when ice cream cost a dime? And your best friend and your bike were all that mattered? Well, those days are back. For a limited time, get a Yamaha V-Star from just $89 a month. It's the Yamaha Turn Back Time sales event. So see your local Yamaha dealer today. Because you won't find a deal this good anywhere else.
Okay, you're the new driver. You need a new car.
Yeah, I'm looking for a speedy one.
Juan, just your style.
You think so?
A little work and this baby will purr like a kitten.
Are you sure?
Vanity mirrors.
I don't know, I want like a red car.
Hey, I like this one here. I see checkered flag. Hi, I'm Jimmy Vassar.
Something in a sedan?
And this is Juan Montoya. Juan, this is a real deal.
They don't make them like this anymore.
He's right.
Are you sure Sonardi started out this way?
Trust me.
Twin turbo to pin you to the seat. All-wheel drive to shred asphalt. Multi-link suspension to humiliate hairpins. And a trailer hitch to tow home trophies. Need for speed, high stakes. Lose the race, lose your car, call a cab.
Introducing Bosch Platinum Plus 4. 4 electrodes. Pure platinum. Take your engine to a higher power. New Bosch Platinum Plus 4.
To the Firestone Firehawk 500K. Just walking distance from the pit area is the magnificent Honda Museum. On this side of the museum, all of the great motorcycles, including Kenny Roberts, world champion runner, and many Formula One cars and other cars of the great Honda vintage in racing. Whoa, Pruitt with a problem. Serious problem, too.
You can see the heat waves.
Fuel nozzle.
Yes, there's still fire burning there. When you see those heat waves shimmering there, there is a methanol fire. Let's
Gary Gerald.
Oh, we're watching the safety crews. There are a couple of crew members. This thing is still not out. A lot of heat generated. We can feel it, and we're about 15 feet or so back behind the wall. Help coming from every adjacent pit. I don't think anybody's been seriously injured, but I did see a couple of crew guys that were trying to act like they were feeling the heat. They're out rolling the car back. I think they've got everything under control at this point. A very frightening moment, obviously.
Looked like the fuel hose separated from the nozzle at some point. There are a couple of important points to remember. One is that methanol is the fuel. It burns without a visible flame until it gets in contact with paint or something else. The good news about it is that unlike a petrochemical fuel, you can throw water on it and dilute it down below its flash point and the fire goes out. We'll keep track of that for you. Gary Gerald's right there. Back at the front, Fernandez with a determined Montoya right behind him. Michael Andretti's dropped back just a bit. Now, what about Castro Neves and Montoya? Gary Gerald, can you take a moment and give us that update?
Paul, let me change gears for just a second. I just grabbed Scott Pruitt. Tell me what happened, Scott. And first of all, are you okay?
I'm all right. We came in for a normal pit stop. I went to put it in gear, and it just took off. The clutch wasn't working. It just took off, and I couldn't get it stopped, couldn't get it out of gear.
A quick inventory here. Are all your crew guys all right?
I think so. Looks like everybody's walking around, but just a disappointing day, you know.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
Boy, close call, Paul, but fortunately, everybody seems to be okay. Now,
well, as long as we've got Montoya, you, can you update us?
Yeah, Montoya's situation, he has his weight jacker incorporated into his steering wheel, and apparently it has malfunctioned. The crew wanted to know if he wanted to change steering wheels. He said no. He will continue with no adjustment in the cockpit right now except for the sway bars. So that's what we know about the Montoya situation, still listed, I believe, in second place.
Montoya indeed in second, Fernandez the leader. There is the separation first to second. And Montoya faster by about 0.6 of a mile an hour on that lap. That, of course, at 212 miles an hour is barely the blink of an eye.
The weight jacker that Gary was talking about, Paul, has two buttons on the steering wheel, one to raise and one to lower the right front of the corner of the car. That's where most drivers have them located. It transfers weight diagonally. It allows the driver to change the handling characteristics of the car. It may not affect Montoya at this stage of his run, but as he starts to burn more fuel, that car may go so loose that he may not be able to adjust it with the anti-roll bars within the car, giving Fernandez a bit of advantage as they get farther down the road.
So we're now a complete race should anything happen. Though rain was mildly in the forecast, it does not appear to be a problem here today after 114 laps. Fernandez is the leader. You see the lead changes, and those out of the race, most recently added to by Scott Pruitt.
And you also get a good shot there of the grandstands, and you'll notice they're not totally full, and that's because they actually limit ticket sales here to 50,000 because they do not yet have a big enough access road to get everybody in and out. So they have a lot of people that want to come, but only 50,000 people get the chance to watch it today.
And Parker, it's kind of interesting. They built it under the theory, if they build it, they will come, but they didn't have the roads for them all to come.
That's right. The best description I've heard of Twin Ring is from Dario Franchitti, who said, you're up in the mountainous region, it's like being in the middle of a James Bond movie. All of a sudden, you pop up and here's this tremendous facility. Some estimates up to $1 billion have been spent with the museum, the hotel, the Fan Fun Lab, which is like an Epcot center. And here we are on board with Jimmy Vasser around this great mile-and-a-half oval.
Tony Kanaan just ahead, just behind him, Helio Castro Neves. We'll just sit back and enjoy the ride. Back at the front, Juan Montoya now begins to nibble strongly at the back of Fernandez. Luis Garcia Jr. just ahead, could be a factor.
To keep in mind that this is a brand new 98 Reynard with a Honda for Montoya and the older chassis, as we talked about before. And Montoya, oh, that was a nice move by Fernandez. That's what you try and do. Get a slower car between you and the guy who's chasing you.
He used it just like a pick, just like you would in basketball, and now he's got that breathing room. We started to talk about that chassis. The 99 Renard is supposed to have 200 to 300 pounds more downforce at 200 miles an hour. And that's what Montoya's got, a 99 Renard, but apparently nobody's told Fernandez. It's a 97 chassis with 98 bodywork and 99 suspension. Adrian doesn't care what it is. He's confident in it. He's going fast. And if Montoya was able to run that close to him before Jan with that sort of turbulence, he's really going to be able to get by. Once he gets by Garcia, he should be able to make up that room again.
And of course, Montoya with a good move, keeping an eye on the slower car, didn't get caught up underneath him. So Adrian Fernandez is still the leader here in the Firestone Firehawk 500.
We asked professional race car driver Scott Pruitt to test our Firehawk SH30 high-performance tires with Unit T. Unit T, the ultimate tire technology we've spent years perfecting. In fact, when it comes to designing performance tires for wet cornering, we've been around the block. The Firestone Firehawk SH30 with Unit T. Get a grip on wet cornering.
Everybody, get ready. Okay. There's me, and there's my 4x4. I'm picking up some speed. Here I go! Up! Woo! Look at me move! And I look great doing it! Woo! Yeah! Look out, everybody! Here comes the Coma Man! You're the bomb, baby! The bomb! The man...
So, what do you think?
I am everyday people.
Michael came onto the scene in Indy cars as a winner. I'm very proud of the fact that he's carrying on the Andretti name. I'll never forget the first really competitive pass that he did on me. We banged wheels a little bit. That car almost full drift in front of me, and he was gone. Adios, Dada.
The Andrettis rely on the same Haviland Formula 3 motor oil you can buy right off the shelf.
That's my boy.
I'm going to Kansas City. Kansas City, here
On the road to Morocco,
Chicago.
FedEx carries more express packages to more places than any other shipping company on the planet. Everywhere from
Georgia
to Barcelona. About the only thing we can't carry is a tune. FedEx. Be absolutely sure.
Today's coverage on ESPN of the Firestone Firehawk 500 is being brought to you by Brewery Fresh Budweiser, official beer of CART. Hey, race fans, this Bud's for you. And by Ford Motor Company. Better ideas driven by you. Tony Kanaan currently runs in 8th place, has had a nice run today. Look just behind him. Castro Neves finally got around Jimmy Vasser and is in 9th place, coming back up through the field, beginning to work on Kanaan. Remember, we're talking a gearbox problem there.
Yes, and you also have to remember that these two guys are best of friends. They were teammates in the Indy Lights Series, both Kanaan and Helio Castro Neves. And again, for Neves, it is going to benefit him when the car is light on fuel, when he really doesn't need to downshift and he's not in traffic. And so as the race progresses, not being able to shift won't be as much of a problem.
That move by Castro Neves around Vasser, the only change that has happened since we left you. But let me tell you that Max Pappas and Greg Moore getting ready to do battle. Look at this as they go 3 abreast, and Castro Neves just comes right to the inside, and goodbye.
That's because he didn't want to shift.
I think Tony was looking at the back of P.J. Jones, and Castro Neves got a great draft from the back of the two of them. It's like looking at the back of a semi. These cars throw up a lot of turbulent air, but it really sucks you up into the back of it. What a great move by Castro Neves.
Further forward, this is Greg Moore, and closing on him is Max Pappas and Paul Tracy closing on Pappas. It's a battle, really, 3-way battle for 4th.
Paul Tracy's had his share of mechanical problems during the course of the weekend, but he's come back with a renewed determination. He's been very confident in the car, and I'm surprised that he didn't move up sooner, but now we see a strong charge. He's obviously gotten the car better through the last couple of stops, and he's looking to break into the top 5, I think, Paul, pretty soon here.
And you saw some lower speeds there than we had seen before. I think quite a few guys now turning down the fuel mixture because they want to get farther into the series, so they only have to make one more stop.
You know, they're thinking about playing that game now. We're at the 130th lap. indications are that most of the leaders are talking about stopping on 143. But if they could get much further, or if they can just gamble another caution period, we've only had 2 in the race, then maybe they can do this race on just one more stop. But right now, I don't think it's likely.
As we ride on board with Michael Andretti, we can hear how much better his car's running than the last time we were on board with him. You can hear easy flat through 1 and 2 now. He approaches turn 3, light tap of the brakes, down into 5th gear, right back on the throttle. He's got this car working much, much better.
And that lap was a 2:12.337, so pretty quick for Michael.
Cosworth has spent its time over the winter developing the mid-range of the engine. Rather than concentrating on peak RPMs, they say it gives them not only better fuel mileage, but a much broader torque band. And Mike's using all of that now as he comes through the last series of corners prior to the start-finish line.
2:12 last time around for Fernandez. Well, it was a 2:13.9, a full mile an hour faster last time around for second place Montoya. There's Montoya, who remains 0.6 of a second behind the leader, Adrian Fernandez. And there are the intervals as he continues to hunt down Fernandez. Intervals don't matter much when you're this close.
But he's right about the distance, Paul, where Juan Montoya is really starting to pick up the turbulent air. He's trying to keep the car down low on the track, trying to find as much clean air as possible. He's getting a good tow down the straightaway, but he may not be able to use that as advantage through the corners. But now we see he's closing up. You can see the distance at the end of the straightaway shrinks up, and when they get to the corners, he falls back once again.
Leo Castroneves now around Christian Fittipaldi and up into 7th. Paul Tracy will be his next target as he comes back up through the field. What a great run for this kid.
You've got to remember, as we watch Adrian Fernandez, he's not going to leave that lower lane open. He's going to try to make it as difficult as possible for Juan Montoya to find clean air. We can see Adrian right down on the white line. He's also picking up turbulence from the car in front of him. And as he comes off the corner, he's going to drive wherever Juan is, so as Juan's got as difficult part as possible coming off the corner.
Early leader of the race, Gugelman. He's running a lap down now in 13th. Gary Gerald?
Well, we just checked with the crew. They say the car has been running fine, but they had that problem on the first pit stop, the incident where a couple of crew members got hit, but fortunately weren't hurt. Then the penalty they had to take later on put them a lap down. The crew says the car's good. All we got to do now is find a way to get the lap back. But, of course, time now becomes a problem in that respect.
Pole sitter, early leader, Gil DeFerrin now runs in 11th place. He is on the leader lap. They do report that a wing end plate is up against the wall, but they don't expect that they'll go yellow because of it.
And the car they're working past right now is Shigeaki Hattori, and he's actually running pretty quick. If you saw how many laps it took for the leaders to overhaul him, and he behaved himself very nicely, considering the guy crashed both times he was in the car in Homestead, spring training and for the race itself. He's really got his confidence back.
But now Adrian's coming up on 2 different cars. This is exactly what Montoya needs to try to work back up on the back of Adrian, use that slingshot to his advantage to try to make the move for the lead.
But they're also moving down on the next potential pit stop, which should be 3 to 4 laps away. So do you go for it all here, or do you just stay in touch? Looks like he's going to go for it.
Whoa!
Oh, darts right, darts left, goes back out right again.
Look
out. And gets caught. Whoa! He got caught, but it didn't matter.
Adrian's not going to... Oh, he's up in the gray, Paul. Adrian didn't give an inch there.
He slowed down because the yellows come out. He was just ready to make his news. And, of course, the red and yellow stripes tells you that there is a course condition, either oil, fluids, in this case, some debris on the backstretch, brings the yellow out, slows him down at a perfect time for stops. But I think I'd want to wait to the end of the stop if I could.
Yeah, but there were a couple of guys who had just rolled onto pit road under green. Vassar was one of them. Anyone who pitted before this, they're cooked.
Well, I tell you, from Montoya's perspective, you're really focused on the outside tires of the guy you're trying to go around. You're not looking for the yellow. Obviously, they've got radio communication, but it looked like Juan got out of the throttle suddenly, something you don't want to do at speed on an oval. He washed up high. That could have been disastrous. But as Jan said, the guys that ducked into the pits, their race is over. These other guys had the yellow come out at exactly the right time. If they can nurse this long enough, this should be their last stop. But still, I think they're going to have to play a fuel game if they want to go hard at full power towards the end of this race.
Safety crew tries to get back to their truck. Fernandez looking for a pit stop, and Gary Gerald is watching from pit side.
Yeah, the crew is anticipating, Paul, no changes on the pit stop. But, of course, this yellow helps them because just as Parker mentioned a moment ago, it's going to be very close on whether they can go the distance. You've got right now exactly 60 laps. It'll be 59 the next time by to get around this track. Now we're being told that Montoya has stopped on the racetrack and may be towed in.
Wow.
There it is.
Yeah,
in fact, he has.
Yep.
So what a change this is. Montoya, who was in that battle for the lead, guessing fuel, but it doesn't seem likely.
Well, there were 4 guys that had just pitted. It was Kanaan, Pappas, Tracy, and Jimmy Vasser. So their chances of staying on the lead lap obviously are gone. And maybe it was fuel.
Well, you have to believe that if Vasser came into the pits that his teammates should have followed, because obviously he was running very hard to stay behind Fernandez. I was in a race a few years ago with Jimmy Vasser from one pit stop into the next. He pulled into the pits. We continued. We both had the same power plants. We ran out of fuel. Maybe that's what happened to Montoya.
Well, monitors are saying that it is, in fact, fuel for Montoya, which may explain even more the really sudden slowdown, not just for the yellow, but he didn't make it all the way around, so he was already in trouble. Probably should have made the try for pit road and suffer whatever would happen if he did that. Let's go to Gary.
Paul, the case was both of them were out of fuel, and I believe you're on board with Montoya. It was a case of Vasser coming in dead stick. Both of them ran exactly 50 laps on that last load before they ran out of fuel. And now Adrian Fernandez is coming in. We're going to keep it right here as the race leader now may have some freedom if they can get through this pit stop cleanly. And, of course, with the luxury of the yellow, everybody methodically goes about their appointed task. For Patrick Racing, there is a wing change up front, half turn on both sides, waiting to get every bit of fuel, and now they send him back out. They want to milk this yellow. They need fuel conservation to get to the end of the race, which is still, just about 58 laps away.
Yeah, 143 complete as both Michael and Christian Fittipaldi for the Newman Haas team head out. What we do know is that the Honda can go 50 laps, and then it's definitely out of fuel. So Fernandez, as the leader, makes his stop in and out cleanly. Moore is up to second. Michael Andretti is third.
Chris Haggerty, Navy SEAL. He's trained for years as an elite soldier, perfect for the Discovery Channel Eco Challenge. He'll use all his skills in a tough, punishing environment that demands his level best in crisis situations. Kinda like the Navy, but the food is much worse. Will he make it? Watch Discovery Channel Eco Challenge Morocco, premiering tonight at 9 Eastern and Pacific on the Discovery Channel. Explore your world.
Horatio Hornblower, Sunday, April 11th. Movie 2, The Fire Ships. When the fleet goes up in flames, will Horatio live or die in the blaze of glory? Prepare for baptism by fire. Horatio Hornblower, The Fire Ships. Premieres tonight at 8 p.m. on A&E.
Would you like to win a trip to the Brickyard 400 and drive the race parade car home? Here's how. Just follow Steve Park and enter the ESPN Drive at Home Sweepstakes, presented by Pennzoil. Watch the Goodies Body Paint 500 on ESPN. Note the Pennzoil car's starting and finishing position. Then, call 1-800-581-3600 or stop by a participating Pennzoil Lube Center and fill out an entry form. You could win a trip to the Brickyard 400 and take home the race parade car or other great prizes.
Firestone Firehawk 500. Cultural differences here to Japan. We put a bun around the hot dog. They put a stick in it. Speaking of food, don't forget this weekend on ESPN, coverage of Winston Cup, the NASCAR Food City 500 from Bristol Motor Speedway. Rusty Wallace has the pole. Get more information at ESPN.com, part of the Go Network, go.com. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, an update now on the Fernandez fuel situation as they continue to circulate under yellow. We're told by the crew that Adrian will need to make up 5 to 6 gallons of fuel somehow between now and either the next time he pits or they hope the end of the race. So every one of these yellow laps helps them get somewhere in the vicinity of 4 to 6 miles per gallon. Under normal race conditions here, they're getting about 2 1/4 miles per gallon. Although the Cosworth engineers told us that they got amazingly good mileage at Miami, a 1.5 mile oval in the season opener. Some teams getting just over 2.5 miles per gallon. So they're in the fuel conservative mode for Fernandez. And a quick update on Juan Montoya on the radio talking with the crew when he came in finally after he was towed in. He was very calm. He said, "We'll get him next time. Man, were we quick." I guess there was no doubt about that.
Well, of course, as we take a look through the onboard cameras, the flashing lights still on the pace car, indication to the rest of the field that they will stay out at least one other lap.
And what they're doing right now, Paul, is Gary was talking about how much better fuel economy you can get when you run under yellow. They turn the fuel down to 80% or so, and what they do is they run at 5,000 RPM, and they can usually get double or triple what they were getting previously. So they can get 3 laps of yellow for every lap of green. You also notice during the pit stops, they were a couple seconds longer than what we saw earlier. That's because it's a gravity-fed tank. It takes longer to get the fuel in on your final stop.
The other thing we saw right at the end of Adrian's pit stop is they put a turn of front wing into the car. That means that Adrian had a little bit too much understeer. The car wasn't turning as much as he liked towards the end of that run, and he wants that car as neutral as possible because he knows, even though it'll be conserving fuel, he might need that car right on the edge in order to bring that car home first to the checkered flag.
So Fernandez will now lead Greg Moore and Michael Andretti back to the line. Just one of those interesting electronic occurrences with the Omega timing here. You saw Greg Moore surge forward under yellow right as he hit the line. Because he did that, his transponder giving the official position hit the line before Adrian did. Now, so that scores him as a lap in the lead for the moment, but of course they'll correct that.
Yes, but if he physically was ahead, would that not be passing under the yellow?
No, because all you have to do is go back. You have to correct the error. Fernandez picks the pace up, and there we go, green.
We'll see how well these drivers guessed at those last-minute fine-tuned adjustments to their chassis. Now remember, there's a big difference in the way these cars feel under full tanks. Once again, they're on cold tires. Michael Andretti, one of the best in the business of going quickly right off the bat, and he's showing that having a look down the inside of Greg Moore.
Michael tries on the inside of Moore. You ride with Michael Andretti now. Fernandez, the leader, 1 car ahead. That's Greg Moore just ahead of him. Second place, just behind him, is his teammate Christian Fittipaldi, followed by the pole sitter Jill DeFerrin.
Whoa, look out. Greg Moore just about lost it. That is a big wiggle at 225 miles an hour. Woo,
and Michael Andretti is going to take advantage of it if he can. He comes to the inside and battles with Moore, but Moore is back up at momentum and at pace.
Greg Moore's too young to slow down too much, Paul. It looked like he had to get out of the throttle a little bit. You don't want to come off it all the way because that'll just snap the back end around. Michael thought he had his opportunity, but Greg's back on the charge again.
Greg Moore is just brave. I mean, when you get that kind of wiggle to hold it down to the floor in the next corner, that guy's good.
I've got 3 kids, Jan. I would have been in.
There's some bad news for what has been one of the stars of the race. Helio Castroneves is currently in 7th. Illegal pit road entry is what the officials say. This is going to be a stop and wait for about 26 seconds.
They've been so close the last few times they've been out, Paul, and here once again we see that everything's got to go perfect in this series in order for you to pull off a win. There are just too many teams that are too good to make any sort of mistake on anyone's part during the course of the race weekend.
Back to the front, Fernandez, Moore, Andretti, Fittipaldi, DeFerrin, the top 5. While Castroneves serves out an eternity of a penalty in the pits.
And Paul, these three drivers, Fernandez, Moore, and Andretti, it looks like a repeat of so many ovals that we've seen in the recent past. These guys are so good. Some young and brave, some not so young with experience, and some a little older with a tremendous amount of experience, all getting the job done in slightly different ways, but all blindingly fast.
Again, our special thanks to our colleagues at NTV Japan providing the coverage.
Another guy that we haven't talked about for a while is Robbie Gordon, who's worked his way up to 6th spot. So Robbie Gordon, with a great start, now is looking for a great finish.
Remember how impressive he was back at Nazareth last year, being 9th quick in the first practice session. He dominates that place in his own way. He showed that he's got speed here. It's a similar sort of track where you have to brake and sometimes downshift. And Robbie has been good all weekend. And as you said, John, now back in the top 6.
Robbie Gordon only 5 seconds behind the leader of the race, Gary Gerald.
Well, Robbie Gordon earlier was having problems much like Elio Castro Neves when he was trying to shift from 6th to 5th gear on the back straightaway going into turn 3. And in fact, at one point, there was a conversation where he told the crew, guys, I think we're done. But he elected to stay out there, and look at him now. He's come back. Nice job by Robbie Gordon in that Toyota-powered machine.
Wow, look not only at the attitude of Gil DeFerrin's car here in 5th, but look at that battle going on ahead of him.
This is a great view, Paul. You can see the car up in front of DeFerrin looking for clean air. That's the whole key to make these cars go quickly. And you have to have a car that's quite superior, not only to catch the car in front of you, but then to execute the pass. What they try to look for is for traffic to use as a pick to get the guy in front of him to come out of the momentum that he's got carrying into a corner so they can use their speed advantage down the straightaways.
Jimmy Vasser just ahead. The real target is the black car of Christian Fittipaldi, currently running in 4th ahead of Gil DeFerrin. Fernandez continues his lead at Twin Ring Motegi in Japan.
Stanley Cup was supposed to be here 3 days ago. You hear that? That's 20,000 screaming people that are going to tear me apart. They tear! Thank you very much. Goodbye. Stanley Cup! Stanley Cup!
Got an important package? Next time, send it FedEx and be absolutely sure.
When you're in the zone and you're on the edge, and I mean the edge, but you're in control, and you can bring that sucker home in first place, that's heaven. Hell is when you put it in the fence.
Nobody tells these guys how to drive. Nobody tells them they can't race 700 horsepower trucks. And no one's going to tell them what tools to use. The 1999 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Tough trucks, tougher drivers, the toughest tools. Craftsman makes anything possible.
Adolphus Busch went to Germany every summer looking at different breweries, and he wrote a series of letters back to his son. September the 20th, 1897. I would advise that we buy the finest growths of barley as soon as we can. We cannot make fine malt from inferior barley, and we cannot make fine beer from inferior malt.
A great tradition reborn on ESPN2. Friday Night Fights, the main event. Forrest takes on Martinez for the NABF welterweight title. Plus, the undefeated Zab Judah in a 10-round bout. Friday Night Fights, Friday at 9 on ESPN2.
Our Toyota Spotlight looks at an interesting fact. 3 times in the 90s, the winner of the season opener went on to win the kart championship. In 93, Nigel Mansell was victorious in his first ever kart race, then later claimed the title. Sophomore driver Jacques Villeneuve won on the streets of Miami en route to his 95 title. 96 champion Jimmy Vasser won the first 4 races of that season. How will Greg Moore, winner of the 99 season opener, fare in the championship hunt? Only the rest of the season will tell. our Toyota Spotlight. And Greg Moore, by the way, currently runs in second place, just 1.3 seconds behind the leader. Gary Gerald?
Well, just checking with the crew, it's taken them a while to get their tires up to the pressure that they want to generate enough temperature, and they've been working throughout the race to get the balance that they've been seeking, but they've steadily been making progress. The one concern for Greg Moore right now is, does he have enough fuel? And they tell me that without a yellow flag between now and the end, and I believe we've just moved inside 40 laps to go, without a yellow flag, Greg Moore will have to come in for a splash. Now, we haven't confirmed that that's the case with Adrian Fernandez, but we believe every one of the leaders is in that same situation. Trying to conserve fuel now. Let's see who can do the best job.
Well, you would have to assume that all of the top 10 are going to have to stop at least once more, and along with that assumption, without a caution period, that stop's going to come close to the end of the race.
Yes, and I think that if they are admitting now that they have to come in for a splash, generally this early they would say, oh yeah, we can make it, and then they change their mind later. If they know now and they're telling Gary the truth, they'll all have to do it.
But are they telling him the truth, John? That's the question, because the strategy is, do you lean it out and hope to go for the finish and find a yellow, or do you just go to full power, keep your foot in it, make as much progress as you can to try to come out on top on that last splash and go?
Talking about that, it is interesting, too, how much these crews pay attention to television coverage, especially when they're saying, oh, we can do it, we can't do it. A lot of that is just good counterintelligence work going on there.
And, of course, all you need is a lap or two of yellow, and that all goes out the window. So all it needs is one little piece of debris or something, and these guys would be able to make it to the end.
Currently, Moore is not able to make any move on Fernandez. In fact, he dropped back 2/10 on that last lap, and that was a run in the clear. They weren't running through traffic.
Our Adrian Fernandez with the Cosworth engine, it looks to me, with the amount of interval that he's pulling out on Greg Moore, looks like he's either on full power or Greg Moore has come way back trying to get to the finish.
Christian Fittipaldi in fourth. Michael Andretti, you got a glimpse of him in third place. DeFerrin sits in fifth.
We've got all four of the engine manufacturers in the top six. We've got Ford, Mercedes, Honda, and Toyota. So it's not only a question of power, it's a matter of who can go the fastest on the least amount of fuel.
And, you know, Ford made great fuel economy when they were in Homestead. People were talking about Mercedes because they've done it in the past. Ford has really increased their fuel economy, as we talked about earlier, because they were able to pick up power in the mid-range.
Completing now the 170th lap. 201 laps, 500 kilometers, 311.3 miles.
And look at Gilles DeFerrin on those Goodyear tires. He was really at one stage there closing on Christian Fittipaldi. And again, a guy who had a great start of the race, now he's open for a great finish.
Looking back from DeFerrin too, Robbie Gordon, 9 seconds back from the leader, but only about a half a second back from DeFerrin, sits in sixth. There's Gordon.
There are only 4 cars in this race, Paul, on Goodyear tires. With Newman Haas Racing switching over to Firestone, Goodyear put all of its hopes on Gilles DeFerrin, and he paid them back with his first oval pole position, running very, very strong at this later stages in the race.
Right behind Gordon, Max Pappas closes and hopefully starts a fight for 6th place. Gordon currently occupies it. There's Pappas. Look at him edge up.
He's getting a great run in the draft, but you can see as he comes down into the corner, he's got to drop back because of that aerodynamic buffeting. As we've mentioned before, you have to have a very strong car in order to run up back of the guy in front of you once you're in the corners. Max doesn't be able to seem to do that. He can get close going down the straightaways, falls back a little bit in the corners, and as he comes off of turn 2 here, we'll see if he can draft back up behind Robbie.
Paul Tracy is in 8th, separated from this battle by one slower car. Tony Kanaan was up there in 9th place, but he just went on into the pits. No indication as to why. Fernandez still very much in control of this race, but let's keep an eye on the last pit stop.
In racing, the engine is everything.
What? It's the driver.
A driver will never see a finish line without a great engine.
The greatest engine will never see a victory lap without a great driver.
At least they agree on Haviland Formula 3 motor oil, the same oil you can buy right off the shelf.
The engine's the first thing over the finish line.
Not in Indy cars.
I'm going to try and leave work early today.
Number 22 is leaving early.
New 160 horsepower Civic SI Coupe from Honda. What about now?
Today we're going to learn the easy way to mow the lawn. This is a lawn. This is a boy. A lawn. Boy. Lawn. Boy. Lawn boy. Easy, huh?
Lawn Boy. Easy to start, easy to use, easy to maintain.
Any questions?
Why are there two of you?
Firestone Firehawk 523 laps to go. You watch Adrian Fernandez, the leader. Now, while we were away, Tony Kanaan headed into the pits. Remember, he stopped a little bit before the rest on the last stop. That was a stop for fuel. Now, what does that tell us? It tells us, I suspect, that everybody else is going to have to stop, and in fact, stop fairly soon.
Well, you would think so, Paul. These guys have one of two strategies, either try to stretch it for a yellow or to go to full power. But from what we're seeing right now, while we were away, we had Montoya go right past Fernandez, obviously on full power. And I think Fernandez and Moore are still playing the fuel game. I think they still haven't leaned back, trying to conserve as much fuel as possible.
Well, what would support that is that just a few seconds ago, Fernandez was passed by Montoya, and Fernandez just let him go, no challenge whatsoever. I mean, it looked like a brilliant pass, but it was obvious that Fernandez was almost 8-9 miles an hour off the pace of the race in fuel conservation mode.
And Montoya then went and passed for position Tony Kanaan, which after running out of fuel on the course, he now is in 12th, a points-paying position.
Gary Gerald?
Well, we're just checking here on the leader, trying to get updated information on Adrian Fernandez. Here's what we know at the moment. And boy, you talk about how close it comes. If there's no yellow between now and lap 197, which is 4 laps short of the checkered flag, Fernandez will be down to 1/2 gallon of methanol. That's it. So he will definitely have to make a splash. Now, if they get the yellow, all of that changes. Meanwhile, you just race and you hope, if you're Adrian Fernandez, that you get the yellow. If you don't, he'll be in here on pit road for about 2 seconds of fuel and gone. But he's going to have to hope that Greg Moore, Michael Andretti, Christian Fittipaldi, and everybody else will be in the same boat.
No, the pit crews aren't feeling any pressure now, are they?
I tell you, there's someone called a data acquisition guy down in the pit lane who's sweating bullets right now to make sure that his fuel calculations are absolutely perfect. They want to recheck the fuel tanks to make sure they got every drop they think they got in that last stop, that the driver reset the fuel counter at just the right time. But Adrian Fernandez is continuing to pull away very, very gradually from 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th place, and all they're looking for is that yellow so that he can get to the end without that splash and go.
Fernandez did pick his pace up to 212.3 on the last lap. Still leads Greg Moore by 2.1 seconds.
Today's technologically advanced cars brake better than ever before. But it's up to your tires to translate these advances into stopping power on the road. The Firestone FT70C uses Unity technology to help your car stop when the rain starts. So if you're not driving on FT70C tires with Unity, what's stopping you? The Firestone FT70C with Unity Ultimate Tire Technology, built to stop in the wet.
Coupe.
entirely different kind of Camry. It's for you.
Only ESPN Classic lets you pick what you want to watch Sunday nights. Just log on to ESPN.com on the Go Network and vote for the week's Classic Click and Pick event. This week, log on and click Choice 1 to see Ali and Foreman's historic Rumble in the Jungle and more. Click Choice 2 to see Sugar Ray Robinson and Jake LaMotta fight for the 1951 middleweight title. Log on for even more Classic Click and Pick choices. Then tune in next Sunday at 7 to see this week's Classic Click and Pick game on ESPN Classic. To get ESPN Classic, call 1-800-CLASSIC now.
Adrian Fernandez still the leader of the race, but it changed just behind him. There you see it. Michael Andretti got around Greg Moore. Moore's speed fell off. Andretti took advantage, charged inside him, and moved into second. Here's the onboard view from Michael's car.
I think what we saw there, Paul, is Greg Moore was going around the top of Alex Barron. He must have lost some momentum. Michael took full advantage of the opportunity, went right past Greg. Greg lost almost 9 miles an hour on that one lap alone, but now he's back up to speed. 188 laps complete, barring a caution period. We're going to stay with you to the finish of this run. Fernandez is the leader.
And now with Michael Andretti moving into second, we have Fords in the top 2 spots, followed by a Mercedes, another Ford, and then Honda. So the top Japanese engine at the moment is in 5th place. They desperately want to get a Japanese power plant to win this thing.
You got to remember, this track was built by Honda, and nationalistic pride is everything. And don't forget, Robbie Gordon's still hanging in there tough with the Toyota motor in 6th spot.
You're riding right with the fight for the lead. Michael Andretti trying to run down Fernandez. He took a 10th off of Fernandez on that last lap. Still, the factor is fuel. 190 laps complete. 11 to go. Michael slows. Michael's heading in. Michael slows. Fernandez stays out.
You would think it's a big advantage if you can stay out a couple more laps because your pit stop would be faster.
Remember, Michael stalled the car at Homestead. This stop is critical for Michael. Obeying the speed limit down to his pit. Montoya and Pappas both in the pits.
He's not going to stall it today.
Oh, he is.
How can he stall without much revs?
Michael Andretti, it may all have gone away. Pappas, by the way, spun at the pit entrance. There he is.
The yellow's out now for sure, Paul.
Garcia also stopped. Michael rolls back. Oh, no.
And there is no yellow, but Michael, I tell you, the problem there is, Paul, because they're downshifting, it can overheat the clutch and all these upshifts and downshifts that they're doing. And what can happen there is when they come in, we saw it earlier with Pruitt, you pull it into gear, and even though you've got a lot of revs, the clutch grabs and it stalls.
You see the flags change at the head of the pits. The yellows are out. Pits are closed. Pappas sits on the pit road. His engine is dead. They're going to try to get him clear, but of course they can't open the pits until they clear the pit lane. And we are talking about guys like Fernandez that are no doubt on fumes.
But what a huge break for Fernandez as we see what happened to Max Pappas on his approach. Remember, you will try and keep the car going as fast as you possibly can until you hit the 60-mile-per-hour limit.
A quandary for Fernandez now. Gary Gerald?
Paul, the situation here, we are told, I believe they've just instructed Adrian on the radio, go full lean and coast. They're going to try to keep him out and not bring him in. Don't know how long this yellow will be, but remember, we told you, if they didn't have a yellow, he was going to be down to a half gallon with 4 laps to go. Right now, I believe we're 6.5, 7 laps to go to hit the checkered flag. It's still going to be close.
An incredible gamble as the vent man keeps track, ready to pounce on that car should they have to bring Fernandez in.
Well, the strategies are unfolding, Paul. We saw Michael Andretti obviously on full power, came in, he needed fuel, he was going to make the sprint to the end. Adrian's leaned back, but I tell you, Wally Dallenbach, Hart's chief steward, is going to try to get this back to green as soon as possible with only a handful of laps left.
And it's still amazing to me that Michael Andretti did stall it. You could hear that thing had to be, what, 10,000 RPM or something, and he dropped the clutch, and it still stalled. You can't blame him for that one.
Well, the clutch stalled. Imagine what happened to Michael's heart when that happened, because to that moment, he was looking strong. Pits are now open, should they care to come in. Lights remain on the pace car, so the lead lap, all is eligible to come in. The game goes to Fernandez. 195 laps complete, 6 to go.
the miscue
Pit
with
open
Michael
sign.
Andretti. We've seen now, we've got Robbie Gordon into the top 5, and we'll see the strategies here, Paul, as to who's bluffing whom, because if the pits are open, we'll see now who's coming in and who's leaning out and going for the finish.
Watching Fernandez. It's his move. Moore sneaks up.
Fernandez stays out.
We've got Paul Tracy splitting that pair. But keep in mind, Paul Tracy's 3 laps down. He's not in the running order right now.
Are they going to try and make it?
Greg Moore came in there, Paul.
Moore peels off and comes in. Fernandez stays out. So first is still on the track. Second place goes into the pits. He's still Gordon second, Gary Gerald.
Greg Moore and Christian Fittipaldi have just gone by me on pit road, and the word has gone to Adrian Fernandez. We will have to come in. Robbie Gordon exits. Gilles de Ferran exits. Everybody is saying we're going to get that fuel, and then we're going to sprint to the checkered flag. Pressure on the pit crews like you can't believe.
Oh, and that call comes about 400 yards too late. If they would have turned him in at the end of the lap, he would have had track position. Now look where he's going to be.
That's his race is over, Paul. He's lost all of his track position. It's going to drop him back to the lead lap cars, and unless he's got a miracle chassis in the remaining laps, there's no way he's going to get back to the lead of this race.
So 2 major changes. Looks like they already recognize where their position may be and are hoping almost beyond hope.
Well, remember that we did not see him peel onto pit road. So, see, he did not come in. So Adrian Fernandez may realize that if he does come in, he's not going to win this race. Maybe he, on his own, is going to decide to stay out there to see if he can do it.
Good observation as well. Gary Gerald?
Paul, here you've hit the nail on the head. They have run out of options, so they have no choice now but to leave Adrian Fernandez on the racetrack. So it's a pure guts gamble. 4 laps to go. They need 2.5 miles per gallon for these last 4 laps.
There are 5 cars on the leader lap. So the worst he could do is fall to the back of that, one would think. 4 laps to go in the run. Fernandez is the leader. We expect the green flag to come out and a sprint to the finish. The question is, can Fernandez make it all the way?
Adrian's got 10 cars back to Greg Moore, which is our second place car, and it doesn't look like Adrian's got aerial refueling capability, Paul.
Yeah, but he can't let a lot of cars slide past him. Here we go. Green. 198 laps complete. 3 to go.
I can tell you, Adrian Fernandez is up in top gear. He's got the thing leaned out as far as he dares. He won't be upshifting or downshifting, and all he can depend is that he's got enough cars in between him, creating enough turbulence and enough traffic to give him as much mileage as possible while Greg Moore tries to make his way forward.
Yeah, it's not his driving at this point. There are plenty of blockers. The only question is, can he get all the way?
Oh!
2 to go. Yellow.
It's Greg Moore in the middle of it, Paul.
Moore slides backwards. Another car involved. Got hard into the wall. Should give the race to Fernandez.
I don't know who Adrian paid off for that, but it seems to have worked out. That's exactly what Adrian Fernandez needed. We saw there were some cars damaged there. You can see the Pat Patrick crew. It's hard to be happy at someone's misfortune, but boy, when it's your time, you take it when you can get it.
Oh, from desolation to elation in Adrian's pits. And Moore just trying to get it going again. Gary Gerald?
Paul, in Adrian Fernandez pits, it was just an unexpected thing, because everybody literally biting their nails, wondering what was going to happen, and then it's like this huge sigh of relief. They know that they've got the biggest break of a young racing season. Amazing.
Well, Moore's going to try to lift that car back. He fell to 4th place as the yellow came out with that spin. We've not yet identified the second car that might have been there.
That was Richie Hearn, who lost his left front wheel with the contact there. It appeared as though Greg Moore lost it. We don't know if there was contact that started that spin, but certainly those were the 2 cars that were most involved.
I'm so happy for Adrian Fernandez, Paul. Sometimes good things happen to good people. Adrian's one of the nicest guys you'd ever want to meet. He took a big risk, and it paid off. And I tell you, what a fantastic achievement to come back here and win this race yet another time.
Well, I don't want to be a naysayer, but under the rules, he does have to get to the line, and he is slowed down at this point. Now, he's going to do it. He's going to come onto the straightaway, but you still got to hold your breath a little bit until, in fact, he passes underneath the checkered flag. He takes it. Adrian Fernandez back-to-back wins at the Twin Ring Motegi. So Adrian Fernandez has taken the win in a race that developed remarkably in the last 4 laps of the run. We'll be back to talk with him right after this.
Meet Steve-O and Bob. They're the only two punks living in Salt Lake City.
What the hell are you? We're from England. That's why we seem so weird to you, man.
With only one way to escape. Critics say it's John Hughes meets Sid and Nancy. Truly original, fresh and hip, and in your face.
I am the future of this great nation.
Matthew Lillard, Michael Gorgon, Salt Lake City Punk.
I didn't sell out, son. I bought in.
Rated R. Starts Friday.
Elegance and beauty of fine jewelry can be breathtaking, and knowing where and how to buy quality is easier and less expensive at New Rochelle Coin and Jewelry. We might look like a jewelry store, but we're much more. Our huge selection of everything in jewelry, discounted every day with 30% and more off manufacturer's list prices on most items, buys you better quality for a better value. And look for our seasonal specials. Diamond jewelry, 14-karat gold, men's and women's fine watches. If it's jewelry, we have it, so buy better. Buy smarter at New Rochelle Coin and Jewelry, 20.5 Division Street in New Rochelle.
Getting the opportunity to be in Jerry Maguire, that was a real thrill. Quite a few of us auditioned for parts.
Show me the money! Show me the money.
Show me the money!
You complete me.
You complete me.
Help me help you. Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? Let's go.
Who's coming with me?
There were a couple of performances that really surprised them.
You had me at hello. You had me at hello. They had a corner kick and we cleared it. I just broke for the goal. Nothing but green in front of me. It felt really good. I'm Dante Washington. Have you seen me?
See him Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2.
Well, Adrian Fernandez has won, but he needs help. He's out of fuel if he wants to get all the way back to the pit area and enjoy the fruits of his victory. Adrian Fernandez has won, led the most laps. Gary Gerald?
Well, we understand he came down pit road rather than the front straightaway where he was supposed to come and stop, but he has a gearbox problem. We frankly don't know, and I don't think the crew knows if he's going to be able. Well, now we can see they've got him hooked up with one of the safety vehicles. He's going to have to be towed back around the racetrack to find his way to victory lane. Meanwhile, Christian Fittipaldi in third place, Gilles de Ferran in second place are here.
And for Gilles de Ferran, what a tremendous run. I'll tell you what, 2 good races for de Ferran, finishes in second. Now here's the incident that set up the win as they were going to 3 laps from the finish.
You can see Greg Moore on the power as he comes out of turn 4. I don't believe he had contact there. I think he was just on the throttle hard, spun it around hard on the power there, shredding his rear tires. You can see the damage there to the left front of Richie Hearn's car. Similar to what happened to Gilles de Ferran, I think. We'll have another look at it here and see what happened. You can see clearly there, he just lost it. You can see the black streak coming from the right rear tire. On the power too hard, 900 horsepower unleashed, brought it straight around.
And you can see some nice avoiding action by Christian Fittipaldi. And in fact, we were with Richie Hearn there, who we saw had major contact with the car ahead of him.
So here's the unofficial results with Fernandez taking the win, followed by de Ferran, Fittipaldi, and Greg Moore. Michael Andretti finishes up in 5th after that disastrous pit stop. So as we look down through the rest of the order, hopefully we're going to be able to talk with Adrian Fernandez in a moment.
This is great. I get fired on national TV.
It could be worse.
How could it possibly be worse, Frank?
I think it just got worse.
And now, Budweiser's replacement for Louis the Lizard.
No.
The Ferret!
This is not going to be good for my blood pressure.
He's good.
Don't encourage him, Frank.
Well, I believe I was born to race.
fact, my mom raced when she was pregnant with me. Winning. And I truly believe that's my destiny.
There's a lot more to working at AutoZone than looking up parts or ringing up sales. And it has to do with taking pride in taking care of customers. Like testing an old part before selling a new one. Or simply having what they need when they need it. In other words, it's about taking care of people who take care of cars. And that's what we do best at AutoZone.
Get up, get down. Hang tight, hang loose. Out back in the sun.
You know that little voice in your head makes you feel guilty for having too much of a good thing? Yeah, we don't either.
Outback Steakhouse, no rules, just right.
Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right.
Well, Gary Gerald, Adrian Fernandez finally is towed around a winner's circle.
He's made it here, Paul, and he's receiving the congratulations in a beautiful Japanese commemorative cup to remember this particular moment. It's 2 consecutive victories here, and this one may have been the biggest surprise of your racing career because I knew you were going to have to make a splash for fuel.
Oh, it was so close. I mean, the last 2 laps I was half throttle on the straight, and I just saw the number getting closer to the end, and I thought we're not going to make it. I'm sorry we saw the yellow, and I mean, we were strong all day, all weekend. I'm so happy for these guys. I mean, they just make a great job, man. It's great.
The emotion begins to show. There were so many different moments of drama. Did you have any concerns in actual race traffic at any time? Close calls today?
Not really. I mean, Montoya was pretty strong at one stage, and we were saving so much fuel that I had the car, but I was saving so much fuel. So I said to the guys, if you want me to keep him behind, you have to give me some help here. So in general, the track was just great conditions. The fans were great. I mean, it really worked good for us. The start, a little bit scary with Jill on the start, to be honest.
Now, next week you go to Long Beach, and I understand you're going to change to the Swift chassis. Big change for you going to the first road course event.
Well, for now, I just want to enjoy this victory because it's just such a great win for us. We were so strong all weekend and managed to take the win. I mean, this is just another dream come true.
Congratulations, Adrian. Great job.
Thanks.
Paul?
Well, no doubt this will be the lead story on RPM tonight on Saturday afternoon, 6 o'clock Eastern. Wrap-up of CART, the BGN, and Winston Cup.
Cup was supposed to be here 3 days ago. You hear that? That's 20,000 screaming people that are going to tear me apart. They tear! Thank you very much. Thank you. Goodbye. Goodbye. Stanley Cup! Stanley Cup!
Got an important package? Next time, send it FedEx and be absolutely sure.
With blistered hands and worn-out backs, they got us over rivers, through mountains, and across the country. They paved the way so we could enjoy the road the way it was meant to be enjoyed. Thanks.
We asked professional race car driver Scott Pruitt to test our Firehawk SH30 high-performance tires with Unit T. Unit T, the ultimate tire technology we've spent years perfecting. In fact, when it comes to designing performance tires for wet cornering, we've been around the block. The Firestone Firehawk SH30 with Unit T. Get a grip on wet cornering.
Twin turbo to pin you to the seat. All-wheel drive to shred asphalt. Multi-link suspension to humiliate hairpins. And a trailer hitch to tow home trophies. Need for speed, high stakes. the race, lose your car.
Announced that Gretzky will be the last